In a world where laughter was king. When everything you know is wrong.
We are fighting the fake news.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Let's set some boundaries with a spoiled control freak. Is that why you're doing this? Well, then get your shit together. All your shit. So it's together.
In a few hours, she'll probably be sane enough to work herself into some sort of towering Jesus-based rage at the hazy recollection of being seduced by some kind of cruel Samoan.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans.
Who are these people? These faces? Where do they come from? They look like caricatures of used car dealers from Dallas. And sweet Jesus, there are a hell of a lot of them at 4:30 on a Sunday morning.
Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So tell me, you're working on something to do with Double Dare, and I mean that's something that I've really watched a lot of as a kid, big into Nickelodeon. Tell me about this project.
Yeah, so it's actually a documentary film about the history of the Nickelodeon Network. So really focusing on the 80s and 90s, the creation, all the way kind of to when they closed Nickelodeon Studios in the late 90s.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, yeah, they did close Nickelodeon Studios down, didn't they?
Yeah, it's not there anymore in Florida.
Yeah, isn't it now like some big corporate office? Because the building is still there. Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, what made you go about making this documentary? I mean, how did you get the funding, and where have you been trying to pitch it and everything else?
Yeah, so me and my writing partner Adam Sweeney came up with this idea of, we really wanted to do a documentary, and we said, what about Nickelodeon? So we kind of did some digging and found out there was a really cool story there of how this network kind of came around. And it's easy now, you look at it and you see this big, huge thing, but it's really kind of interesting. It was actually once this kind of small rebel force up against Disney. And we knew there was just this really cool story there. So to get our initial round of funding, we did an Indiegogo campaign, which is actually still live. You can get some really cool perks on there. We, because our Indiegogo campaign was successful, we can keep it going forever. So there's a lot of cool perks. You can get messages from Nick stars, stuff signed from Nick stars. We got a poster done by Justin Harder, the guy that did the end credits for Deadpool. He's doing our artwork.
Ooh.
So we got some signed posters from him. It's really, really a pretty cool thing. So yeah, if you look, the Orange Years is the name of the film, and that's not orange ears. Sometimes it sounds like I'm saying ears over the phone, but it's the Orange Years. And if you look that up on Indiegogo, or if you go to our website, theorangeyears.com, you can see our Indiegogo campaign. There's a donate button, and you can get some cool stuff. But anyway, that's how we got our initial round of crowdfunding, and we just started filming this thing.
Oh man, this Indiegogo campaign, I'm looking at it right now. Everybody needs to go contribute at least $45. Because with a $45 contribution, you get a handmade, personalized drawing of yourself as a Nicktoon, and you get to choose a style like Doug, Rugrats, or Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes!
You know, I am a friend of, and not a friend, I mean, acquainted with Billy West, who was big into a lot of those Nickelodeon shows. We've invited him on the show a couple of times, and hasn't been able to do the show yet, but I'm really hopeful that we can make that work, because I'm a huge fan of his work. Doug Funny, he was involved with Ren and Stimpy. I mean, guys like Billy West and Phil Lamar, they were huge in helping Nickelodeon really become that's what I thought was so unique about it, was the programming was great. You know, some of the biggest shows of our youth were on Nickelodeon.
Well, yeah. And what I'm still going through the Indiegogo page, and for $500 you get a personalized video message from a golden age Nickelodeon star. So tell us some. Like,
can we get a hint?
Yeah, go ahead and name drop some of the people that have stepped up and been helping you with this.
Anything you can tell us would be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, like who's in the film?
Well, like if you get a signature from a golden age Nick star, who would that be? Maybe.
Well, we've had one person buy that, and they got, to give you a hint, it might be someone that would give you an awful waffle.
Oh, yes. Love that show.
Yeah,
Say no
yeah,
more. Say no more. That's great.
All right. So what
I'm so
other
excited.
what other shows did you get people? You know, because I presume that you've done like interviews and things like that with people that start on
yeah.
these Nickelodeon shows. What are some of the names and what are some whose faces can we expect to see?
Right, and what has been the most unique experience or story to come out of that?
Oh gosh, I mean, really, in terms of who we have in the film, it's from every golden age Nick show. If you're thinking 80s and 90s, we got at least one person from all those shows. So all the way from You Can't Do That on Television, Double Dare, Salute Your Shorts, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Clarissa Explains It All, Alex Mack.
Man, my life stopped.
All that, Keenan and Kel.
My life stopped making sense when Clarissa stopped explaining it all. I mean, that's when things really got complicated for me. What's your favorite Nick show? Do you have a favorite? Has it changed since you started working on this project?
You know, it has. And getting to talk to a lot of these people behind the scenes and hearing their thought process on how they created these shows and what was the driving force behind these shows has really given me some new insight into it. You know, Are You Afraid of the Dark has always been one of my favorite shows. It's a cool horror anthology series. It's just a neat show. It's kind of spooky. As a kid, it was just spooky enough to get you like excited, but not spooky enough to like
keep you
scar
up at night,
you as a 10-year-old.
Yeah, it wasn't like it coming out of a storm drain.
What were those books that they made? Remember the
Goosebumps?
No, the ones where they were.
Goosebumps.
Did you ever think, as a hearse rolls by, that you might be the next to die? Remember what was that? Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh yeah.
That's what he's talking about.
Did they adapt that into?
Are You Afraid?
No, they adapted. I'm thinking of something else
No,
entirely.
it's Goosebumps is kind of similar because Goosebumps was a book that then became a TV show similar. But Are You Afraid of the Dark? You know, knowing that this guy, DJ McHale, who was the writer, creator of the show, had to because it was an anthology series. You know, the cast for the beginning and end, the Midnight Society, was the same. But the actual story that you saw, he had to recast that every single episode. So he was constantly having to recast kids because it was a different story. And when you go back and you see how many of those kids went on to be very successful, it's crazy to see, one, the amount of work he had to do to recast that and find new locations, new writers, new kids, new adults for the show. And then it's just crazy that he did that. And also to see, obviously, he had a good eye for talent because, Nev Campbell was on there. Hayden Christensen was on there. Elijah Cuthbert was on there. I mean, all of these people that went on to be, really big were on that show.
That's amazing. I had no idea that they had found so many of these big names at such an early age. And you think about the fact that Nickelodeon goes up against Disney and they make this huge impact. You have to believe that there's a lot of talent and a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that made that work.
Right. Yeah, and there was. And really, our story kind of revolves around Geraldine Laybourne. She was the president of Nickelodeon at the time. And really what she did is she would find creators that she believed in and just let them make a show. And she didn't micromanage them. There was no formula. You know, a lot of times you see a formula. Once somebody finds this kind of format works, make me 100 shows just like this, just slightly tweaked. But that wasn't at all the case with Nickelodeon. You know, Are You Afraid of the Dark was totally different than Clarissa, which was totally different than All That, which was totally different than Double Dare, which was totally different than, Ren and Stimpy and Doug and Rugrats and all those shows. There was really no, when you say, oh, I love 80s and 90s Nickelodeon, what does that mean? Because it's kind of all over the place, but all awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No two shows were alike. I mean, you could turn on the Disney Channel and everything is so generic and
cookie cutter, right?
Yeah, I mean, kids in a school, kids here, kids there. But then you throw in shows like Hey Dude, Salute Your Shorts, and the other shows that they had on during that time, and they're completely different. And of course, Ren and Stimpy being considered a kids show at all. That's pretty amazing.
Right? Was there any
It was pretty crazy.
Was there any sort of battle back and forth between Disney and Nickelodeon over the years about talent? I mean, did they try to poach each other?
We didn't find anything like that. We did find a lot of the kids that auditioned for Nickelodeon shows also were auditioning for Disney shows, but we couldn't find any anything really about them poaching. I mean, the closest you could say probably was, everyone probably remembers Doug was a Nickelodeon show and then became Disney's Doug. All of a sudden, you're a kid and you see that Doug is on Disney. It wasn't really so much poaching. It was just kind of changing things up, essentially.
Oh, and Disney wasted no time making sure to slap their name at the top. Even in the opening sequence, it was Disney's Doug.
Right.
I don't even remember
Disney's
Disney
Doug. Yeah.
That's funny. I don't even recall Disney having Doug. I've always associated it with Nickelodeon.
Well, and then they ended up getting Melissa Joan Hart too. I mean, we had her as Clarissa, and then all of a sudden she's Sabrina, and now she's doing some show, I think, on ABC Family with Joey Lawrence.
So where can people who are interested about this film, where can they go to find more information, and when can we expect to see it?
If you really want to follow us, the best thing to do would be to follow us on Facebook. Just look up the Orange Years on Facebook. We're constantly putting out news there. We're in post-production right now. We finished filming, and now we're busy editing the film, scoring it, putting some really cool animation. The same guy that actually does the Nicktoons Yourself perk is doing our animation for the film. Really talented guy named Jeff Johnson. So your drawing would be done by the same guy that's doing the animation for the film. And we've got a couple months left on the film, and then we are going to find a home for it. So we're already talking to some people. We'd love to end up on a streaming platform. That would be our
Netflix
our
original
number one goal,
right? Yeah,
like everyone else.
All right,
But yeah, we should know pretty soon in the next couple of months. This summer, we should know more information on where this film is going to live and where people can see it.
Well, definitely keep us in the loop on that. We'd love to, track where it's headed and how everything is going.
Sure.
Well, hey, we throw you a big party here in Dallas too. We could probably pull that off. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love it. Love it.
Now, this is the most important question.
Awesome. We'd love to come out there.
This is the most important question that you're going to be asked in this entire conversation. Have you figured out the recipe for the slime?
So, okay, there's a couple of questions that we ask in the film, and we ask writers, directors, and actors. One of them is, what's in the slime? Another one is, what is an awful waffle? And the third one is, what is that powder that they threw on the fire? If you remember on Are You Afraid of the Dark, they threw a powder on the fire, right? Made it go, they'd say, they'd say this story is the tale of the twisted claw.
Right.
So we ask those three questions, and you will get answers to some of them, but not all of them. Some of them are a closely guarded secret.
That's awesome.
So you'll have to watch the film. But one answer that we did get from from one of the actors from You Can't Do It on Television said, "I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you." So we decided to keep it and not push it any further.
Now, did you find the recipe for the slime to be the most tightly guarded secret? What was the most tightly guarded secret that you came across in this whole process?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, what's in the and if you notice, if you watch Nickelodeon, the slime changes.
Oh yeah,
you can't do that on television. It's a very chunky, thick. And then later on, there was a show called Figure It Out that had like Lori Beth Denberg and Danny Tamborelli and a lot of later Nick stars from that kind of era. And the slime was it was darker and runnier, and so it kind of changed. So that we really never got a straight answer of what was in it or where it came from. You can't do that on television. Is one of those shows that I think holds up so incredibly well when you watch it now as an adult. Sometimes when you go back and you watch a show from your childhood, you go, this really wasn't as good as I remembered it. But You Can't Do That on Television is even better. It really was Monty Python for kids. It had a very British sense of humor, very edgy humor, not trying to be not a fake kind of edgy bro type thing, but just very witty and subtle,
smart.
And there was a guy named Roger Price who it was smart. And Roger, a Nickelodeon show, it was CJOH, which is a local Canadian network in Ottawa, and they made that show there. And Nickelodeon, a lot of people don't know this, I certainly did, and I was a little bit too young. But Nickelodeon had an era before the era that we all remember, where they kind of didn't have a direction. They kind of just got whatever they could find. A lot of like just kind of PBS type shows, and they didn't have the orange logo, and they didn't have that kind of almost naughty, irreverent feel. And it was whenever they licensed You Can't Do That on Television, because that's what they were doing. They were just getting shows from Canada, from England, from France, from Japan, wherever they could get it. They weren't making their own shows. And so they didn't actually make You Can't Do That on Television. They got it from a guy named Roger Price, who really was a genius. And he was making it in Canada. It was a local Canadian show. They brought it, and really you can tell that's where all shows after that were really owe a lot to You Can't Do That on Television. The slime, the kind of humor that was a little bit off color, but not so off color you're going to get in trouble from your parents. And also, if you notice, a big running theme is the adults are idiots. You know, Ugg on Salute Your Shorts was an idiot. You know, Mr. Ernst from Hey Dude was kind of an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, Clarissa's parents were kind of doofuses. And that all kind of started with You Can't Do That on Television. You know, the mom and the dad were just buffoons. And that's how you feel when you're a kid. You know, you feel like kids are smart, and all that adults are these big, dumb things that are kind of in your way, that don't understand anything.
Well, it's like Charlie Brown, you know, all the adults.
I guess that was kind of a long-winded way to answer your question.
Scott, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. We appreciate it. Definitely keep us in the loop and let us know what's going on. We would love to talk about it as we get closer to release and everything. And once you find a nesting home for it, that would be great.
Yeah.
So Scott Barber with his Indiegogo project and his documentary, The Orange Years. You can go to indiegogo.com/projects/the-orange-years/ and check it out. Definitely go pledge and support this project, because we were all kids once, and this provides a very good insight into something that so many of us enjoyed when we were younger, and we don't get the joy of enjoying it now.
It's, you know, like I said, it's a great thing to be able to relive some of our childhood years, and I think that's what a lot of this does for people like me anyway. So, Scott Barber, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.